Hello, welcome to a new episode of the My Data Guest podcast. Today with us we have my friend Miguel. How are you?
Hello, Alessandro. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really happy about that. We were in India just last week and now we're recording this episode. How does it feel?
Feels really weird because, we were in India like 1 week ago, but it feels like we were in there for 1 year, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
We had a lot of experiences. So yeah, feels really weird to be back home.
We were on the same flight at some point and we started this adventure together. And I remember that after 2 days, we were like talking about it and we were both like saying, okay, it really feels like, I don't know, it really feels like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
How long? When did we arrive in Bangalore?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Was completely different.
All right. So, maybe this will be the first episode of the new My Data Guest podcast. I'm not sure yet, honestly,
Wow.
because we're planning a lot of things. We have a lot of guests. We have a really long list, and I'm really surprised because I'm like, who wants to talk at my podcast? But that's not the first episode of this podcast because we're kind of renewing this podcast. But I think you will be the first one, the first guest of the rebranded My Data Guest. I have a couple of questions for you,
Okay.
which I didn't share up front because I want to make this podcast very tough. Be
I like
careful.
it.
Be careful, Miele, because
I
usually
am.
what happens when someone invites me at a podcast to record an episode, they're like, okay, I'm going to share the questions so you feel comfortable. And I'm always like, why do you want to share the questions? I think it's better if you ask me the questions when,
I agree. I agree. Yeah. I prefer this style.
You
Yeah.
will regret this. Let's start with a simple one. What is your background, Miguel? Because we did talk a lot about what you're doing, and once you mentioned that you were studying physics, probably. Maybe you can elaborate. I don't know. Just the stage is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So, can you imagine that now I don't know how to answer? First question, and I don't know
First question. I'm
how to
sorry. I
answer.
need to leave the
Yeah, I'm
podcast.
sorry, I need to leave the podcast. So yeah, I'm a physicist. I studied physics. The reason why I made a decision is that, well, since I was little, I was really interested in physics, mathematics, etc. But then I had to decide between mathematics and physics, and I preferred physics, to be honest, more like relation with reality. And there were a lot of things about the universe, cosmology, etc., that I really enjoyed. And I did physics. And when I finished my degree, I realized that I didn't want to do research inside of the physics space, and I didn't want to be a teacher. So I decided that it was time to make some changes. And then I started researching about the different options. At that time, it was in 2015, 2016, I think. There was a lot of hype about around big data, data science. I remember a lot of newspapers calling it the sexiest job of the 21st century. And I started reading about it, and I was like, okay, this seems interesting. I have some background with mathematics. I like statistics. I put into practice a lot of statistics in many of the subjects that I studied in physics. So I felt like I could be a good match for this new career. And I decided to move to Madrid to study a master degree in big data and data science applied to
Oh, right. Yeah, I missed
financial
that
markets.
piece. So you moved to Madrid to do your master's about
Yeah, that's
data,
it.
big data.
That's it.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
2000 and I think 16,
Right.
17. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was the piece that I missed. I thought you also studied physics at your master's, but you
No,
did data science.
I did
All
data science.
right. This is I don't know, maybe for new generations this is not really interesting, but for me it's always super interesting because I have so many colleagues that are coming from physics or mathematics, so they didn't really study. They didn't study data science.
Yeah.
And I did study data science. I think that was one of the first like proper data science masters in 2016, 15. So when I tell these people like, oh wow, you did study data science, it actually had a different name back then. But I'm always curious when I see people coming from a different background, and
Yeah.
most of the data scientists I met are basically coming from mathematics, physics. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think a
that's
lot of
cool.
people, from my colleagues are also migrating into data science, machine learning, etc. So yeah.
Yeah, but you're also really into like software engineering.
Yeah.
So how did you make the switch because you were coming from physics? How did it feel?
Yeah, so after I finished the master degree, I started working as a data scientist, as you were saying, just focus. Remember my first job, it was with R, the statistic language. But then one thing that I've noticed is that data science was not enough in itself. And sometimes I felt like I had like really good models and I was really proud of my models. But when I try to deploy that, or when I give the models to the deployment team and they try to deploy them into real world scenarios, production ready scenarios, my models seem to be underperforming. So I decided that mathematics was not enough and I had to get much more knowledge about software engineering and more accurately how to deploy these models into real world scenarios, which of course entail a lot of things about data engineering, DevOps, and software engineering in general, because I understood that it was not just about the maths, that I was building software. So I had to learn how to engineer good software.
Yeah, and what about the classical machine learning, deep learning techniques? How did you start? I mean, because I imagine you were studying those subjects during your masters, but then, as you probably know, I mean, going from university to applying these concepts in a for your real business use cases in a company, that can be challenging. How was that for you?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, some of these subjects I studied them, but not at a very not in depth, to be honest. During the master, we cover a lot of things of traditional machine learning algorithms. But for deep learning, to be honest, there were a lot of changes in the space at that time. I mean, we were studying LSTMs, but I mean, a couple of years later, the transformer architecture was released, and a lot of cool architectures were being released every time. In terms of how I applied all of these techniques to production scenarios, to be honest, at that time at least, sometimes the deep learning algorithms were very flashy and many
Hmm.
people wanted to apply them. But then you realize that with a gradient boosting tree, a random forest, or something like that, you were getting the same results or even
Yeah.
better results, at least for the kind of data that I was dealing with. Mostly time series, also, for example, recommender systems. And for many of those, to be honest, deep learning in many cases didn't seem to outperform the algorithms that I was using in the first place. Then for other kind of problems, like for example, I remember one project about license plate recognition. In that case, yeah, it makes sense to start using convolutional neural networks, and the project went really well. But yeah, I mean, I've always been really pragmatic in terms of what to choose and how to choose it. And I think that's really cool for people who studied computer science, software engineer, because you are really pragmatic in that sense. You don't let yourself being guided by the beauty, mathematical beauty of things. You just choose
Mhm.
what fits the purpose. And I think that's the right mentality if you want to create like good software and good products. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a really nice thought because I think for engineers the point is not beautiness, but it's more about making things work. And of course, I see some beauty in some of the algorithms that I
Yeah,
wrote in the
absolutely.
past, but it's and sometimes we also think about those algorithms as kind of as art, and we say, okay, wow, that's a
Yeah.
piece of art. I remember me falling in love with the quick sort the first time that I saw it. I mean, it's like, wow, that's beautiful. But in the end, it has to work. And at some point, we will probably stop thinking about these things because at some point, machines are gonna write code for us,
Mm.
so we won't even look at it. It will be a black box. No matter how ugly it is, no one will care
Yeah.
anymore. Think about it. So this thing about beautiness, I think we will have another podcast because I really love this concept. Also in mathematics, a lot of people like, I think there are like two groups of people: those who are looking for beautiness and those who say we don't need that constraint. We don't need the constraint of beautiness. We need to find answers.
Yeah.
Sometimes, some mathematics concepts can be just ugly, I guess.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's a good point. Yeah, interesting. And when you were talking about deep learning techniques, I was thinking about what many companies were doing back then when deep learning was a buzzword, and we were all talking about neural networks, and we all wanted to use it. And I remember many companies like putting some sort of art about machine learning neurons brains into the
Yeah.
marketing campaigns to show that they were doing some real AI.
I remember many companies displaying or trying to showcase a linear regression because they were doing the linear regression with just
Right.
one neuron. As we are using neural networks, this is like an artificial brain working inside a company,
Yeah.
and it was just one neuron that was doing a linear combination, and that's
Yeah.
basically it. That's it. It was a linear combination of weights. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah. In the end, we're all using linear regression models.
yeah,
Sometimes
absolutely.
even less. Sometimes I was like, hey, we know the function. I'm just gonna implement it as it is.
That's it. Yeah. Why do you want to approximate when you know the
Right.
exact
When you
function?
know
Yeah.
it. Right,
Yeah.
right, right. That's cool. That's cool. Speaking of AI, when I say generative AI, what's the first thing you have in your mind? What's like the once I say it, you're like, okay, that's the first image, whatever it is. It can also be a dog flying in Spain. I don't care. Like the first thing you think about generative AI,
Can I be really bad here?
everything.
Okay, hype probably right now.
Right.
Right now, I mean that term. I think it's a beautiful field, subfield inside artificial intelligence, and I think that many people just assume that generative AI is basically LLMs. There are a lot of beautiful constructs and techniques, architectures were built in the past, and who have a lot of cool mathematics intuitions, etc. But right now, to be honest, at least the 24th, the 29th of August, the word that comes to my mind is hype, because right now I think that it's very difficult to talk about this space, about these techniques belonging to the generative AI subfield without being in some sense affected by all of this bubble, all of this hype. In fact, I'm really happy about the talks that we did in India for Analyst Bija, because in my opinion, there were a lot of speakers who were giving like really nice talks about different algorithms, different architectures, frameworks, etc. But one thing that I really enjoy about both your talks and my talks is that we try to get away from all of this fluff, all of this hype, and all of this nonsense and noise in this field. And that's something I really, really value, for example, about your content, about the things that you're doing. So, yeah. But to answer your question, hype right now.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's not too bad when you say that. I want to say something bad. I was like, okay, I'm gonna cut this part probably. That's not too
Not
bad.
that bad. Not that
I
bad. No.
can leave it in the podcast. I can leave it. But hype is yeah, it makes totally sense. And I think we were both trying to showcase a solution. It doesn't matter which tool we use, but we want to build something. Really like the motto of the neural maze. I don't know if it's the neural maze or is on your
Yeah, yeah,
personal Substack when you say I'm a builder, and I love it because I say that's what I say about myself. I'm an engineer. I want to build stuff. And of
yeah.
course, I mean, we talk about mathematics,
Absolutely.
amazing algorithms, but in the end, it's about using them. I'm not. I mean, I work as a data scientist, but as I usually say, I'm an engineer. So I want to build stuff and I want to solve problems. So that's my goal. And we probably saw this during the conference that we were trying to. That's what we were trying. We didn't want to sell anything. We just tried to
Yeah,
say, okay, we had this problem. This is how I solved it, and that's why people were inspired. I remember when I attended your talk, I was hearing at some of the questions that people were raising, and I had the same questions. I mean, they were really engaged because they were like, okay, I can actually use this stuff. Maybe
yeah,
it's not about reproducing exactly what you showcase, but I can use some of the concepts for my
yeah,
solutions. Yeah, I think we always go back to problem solving, software engineering. We always go back to that. AI in the end is just a label, I guess. As I usually say, before AI, I mean before deep learning, we were calling that AI.
yeah.
It's like, and before that, maybe some statistics, maybe before statistics, just rule-based systems. I
Yeah,
remember that
logic.
that was AI for us. So it's just a label in the end.
Yeah, it's difficult, but that's an interesting topic, to be honest. Like the definition of what is AI and what is not. Because if you take, for example, the AIMA, the Artificial Intelligence Modern Approach, the Bible of
Yeah,
AI as a space, as a field, one thing that really astonishes me is how many different things are labeled as AI. Because as you were saying, you have some rule base, you have inference, have logic, first order logic, you have all the statistical learning. Everything seems to be labeled as AI, and sometimes you even lose like what is that thing that all of these subfields have in common, that they are run inside a
yeah.
computer, that they are so yeah, I think that's an interesting topic, like really defining what is AI and how can you label something as being part of the AI field.
Yeah, everything is AI now.
Yeah,
I'm also confused, even though we belong to this field. I am confused because I always hated like talking about AI, like the terminology, because for me, it's just a placeholder. But there were a lot of different things behind it. Now is kind of mainstream because of like if we see it from a marketing point of view, because of the release of ChatGPT that
yeah,
really changed also how people perceive AI. That's I mean ChatGPT is kind of that's AI for many consumers. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting.
yeah.
And what about agentic AI? What do you see now? What's the first thing you have in mind?
I think in that case, I mean, I could repeat the same keyword. I could go again with hype, but also I would say that agentic AI, first of all, is not as complex as many people believe, and at the same time, I think that even if we are probably in the midst of a bubble that is probably going to
Yeah,
burst at some time, at some point, I also believe that agents, as you were saying, for example, for coding or agents for a lot of different stuff, are here to stay. I don't think, or I don't see this technology going away. I don't see this technology being banished by some bubble bursting or stuff like that, because I think that good agentic systems really provide value, and good agentic systems really make our lives better in that sense. So yeah, it can be referred to coding, it can be referred to email, like responding, or call centers, real estate agents, whatever. I mean, there are a lot of applications where I think agents are a good fit. And I think that if you implement good agentic systems, this is something that is going to be here for a lot of time. I think it's starting to become the present, and for sure, for me at least, it's going to be the future.
yes. Um, yeah, we did talk a lot about these things also during the conference. So I believe that we're pretty much on the same page. What I hate about agentic AI now, and agentic AI, MCP, agent to
Yeah,
agent, all this new stuff, is that I see people wasting a lot of time on the technical side of it, which in my opinion is kind of easy to understand. There's
yeah,
nothing, you know, there's nothing complex about that. You can easily understand how the MCP works, and
absolutely.
you can kind of implement something in a few minutes. You don't really have to do it. You just vibe code the whole thing. So it's not a big issue. Um, and we have done workshop at my company when we were trying to dive into these new things, just to kind of push people to discover new stuff. I did like it. It was a really nice initiative, and I'm glad that we did it, because some people were not familiar with it. Even
Yeah,
data scientists, it makes sense. Maybe they're not really, and that's also another thing that I want to discuss later. But honestly, for me, the biggest problem was like, okay, now we know how to set up a tool for Claude. Okay, if Claude will ask, if we will ask something specific to Claude, it will answer, it will use that tool. So far, so good. But the initial question stays: why are we doing this? What's the business
that's
use
it.
case?
That's it.
And that exercise is really complex, because you don't know why you have to implement that. And that's a product problem. I mean, it's more like a business use case problem. And I don't see many people ask me, okay, well, I see that you're doing a lot of stuff in the context of agentic AI. That's really cool. What do you think about using this in that context? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, we can do it, but we need a really good business use case, and
That's
that's
it.
when you're really putting a lot of effort into understanding what to do with those tools, what to do with these new technologies. So the workshop
Absolutely.
was fine, but in the end, I was like, yeah, but Are we gonna
Yeah,
use
why?
this for real? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
who's gonna use that? Come on.
A very good point. I really like that point. That's the reason why, if you check the neural maze and all the different projects that I'm building, I never build like agentic systems for the sake of agentic systems. I don't explore how to do this technology or how to implement this pattern. Well, I have like the implementation of the four agentic patterns, but for educational reasons. But most of my projects are about, okay, what if we want to create, for example, WhatsApp agent that is able to answer questions about some specific
Yeah,
topic for your library or for your business or whatever. And you can take this code and just implement it for your business. Or what about creating a phone call real estate agent that is able to answer questions about your real estate company like 24/7, for example? When
yeah,
you are going to sleep, then your agent keeps solving questions for the potential
yeah,
buyers of your apartments. So stuff like that. I mean, what you said really resonates with me, because I think that's the main problem. Many people are telling you, hey, I built a reasoning agent that is able to use 140 tools. And it's like, okay, well, that's
mhm,
amazing, but why? If it's isolated, you are not going to use that for anything. I mean, it's not part of any big application that you want to build. It's not part of any use case that you want to solve. And many people, I think, are having this problem with agentic AI, that the entry barrier is very low and it's really easy to feel really good about building an agent with LangChain, LangGraph, CrewAI, whatever. But for me, the difficulty starts when you try to integrate this agent into software engineer project. That's where, I mean, it's more difficult, but at the same time, for me at least, is much more like fun and engaging, trying to build something on top of this agent, because the agent and the LLM is going to be 1% of everything that you're trying to build. All the rest, the databases that you need to use, the OAuth, the APIs that you need to build, the front end, etc., it's going to be 99% of all your development. So yeah, I think that I agree with you that many people are getting things wrong in this sense. They are not treating agents as a mean to achieve something, but as the goal, and that's
yeah,
not that's inaccurate. I mean, that's not good.
yeah. It's more for the sake of using the tool, using the
Yeah, that's
technology.
it.
But also, as a disclaimer, we have to say that it is complex to understand when to use these tools.
Absolutely.
But of course, it was like this also for machine learning. I mean, the potential is high, but then we understood for which classes of problems that
Yeah,
type of technology is not, it's not really helpful. And that's why we're in a bubble now, because we're all
yeah,
trying to use tools for that are not really meant for the things that we want to solve. And then at some point we will understand, okay, for these classes of problems we can actually use these tools, but not for everything. It's a process. And yeah, and it's also about money. I guess that some people are making money out of this, as I usually say, some fake data influencers that are all over the web saying, hey, look at this new project, and in the end it's just one Python file that will never see the light. It's also about money.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I like that, like immense Python file. That's so typical. I mean, like 10,000 lines of Python, like with no purpose. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. I also wanted to ask you about your success as kind of data advocate, we can say. I mean, you are some sort of data advocate, and this kind of profiles. For me, this people doing what you do. I mean, I really love the work you do, and all the things that you have done so far. I'm always obsessed with people doing this, because I'm like, okay, whenever I find someone who is into these topics as I am, I'm always like, okay, I just found someone else, and I wanna see how did they end up there? What are they doing to, I don't know, like engage with people, and so far so on. So I always have a lot of questions. How does it feel for you? How did you start like creating content and being a data advocate?
so I would say that before the LinkedIn brand and the neural maze and Substack for the newsletter, etc., I started with YouTube, because I usually, I mean, there are many YouTubers out there, like technical YouTubers, which I really enjoy, and I think they put forward really nice content about new technologies, system design, or even, for example, Josh or Luis Serrano about understanding the intuition behind all of these algorithms. So I thought, okay, maybe I'm going to do something a bit different. Maybe it's not going to be for all public because it's going to be like really technical. It's going to
Yeah.
be very in depth, hands on. But I thought, okay, I don't see many YouTubers out there like building 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours hands on projects from scratch, building projects that you can easily pick and make it specialized for your business. So that's when I started building some YouTube courses about some stuff that I liked at the moment. And then I also started being more active on LinkedIn. I saw many profiles like Paul Justin, Alex Rathband, for example, which I really enjoyed. Paula Barta as well. People who showed me that you don't on LinkedIn, you don't need to be pushing, you don't need to be like sharing all of this sometimes a bit stupid stuff, and
Hmm.
clickbait to be successful, to have some to make some noise. And that's when I decided, okay, I just need to follow the example of these guys because I love what they are doing. So I started building things for LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, when I was about 20,000 followers on LinkedIn or something, I decided that the LinkedIn posts at some points are not enough for me because of the limitation when I want to explain like more complex topics. So I decided as well to move to Substack, where I can explain like more in more detail things that I like. And yeah, that's how the neural maze was born. Then I
Right.
built this ecosystem, everything connected: YouTube, Substack, and LinkedIn, and that's basically it.
Yeah. What you did is amazing. I checked all the stuff that you created so far. The YouTube channel is great. You have quite a lot of views and people are really engaged and happy about the content. It's definitely connected to something that I saw just a few days ago from Joshua. He was like writing something on LinkedIn and say, many people ask me how I'm doing this. I also get this question often, probably
I
you
read it.
too. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, and that's what he said. He said exactly this. I was like, yeah, that's true. And he said, I found something that, of course, I liked, but no one else was doing back then. And they just focused on that. And I think it's the same for you. It's the same for me. It's probably the same for Luis. That's a secret. I mean, it's not a secret because then, of course, you have to work very hard, to
yeah,
create all
absolutely.
this stuff. But yeah, you just have to be consistent and have a huge passion about what you're working on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
That's a
that
very good
you,
point.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
consistency. That's key. That's
Um,
the key.
what's the future about the neural maze, your Substack? What are you planning?
So for the short term, I'm planning probably two future open source courses. One is going to be about voice agents, but for phone calls, because I think not many people are covering this stuff connected to Twilio and something fancy with fine-tuned LLMs. And the other one is going to be about probably recommender systems, more traditional machine learning. But the idea that I have in mind is to build your own Spotify. So that's the idea that I have in
That's
mind. It's going to
nice.
be a huge project and it's going to involve a lot of crazy stuff, but I think people are going to love it. And of course, I'm also exploring more video game connections with AI. In fact, I was even taunting you a little bit about building some cool stuff with Minecraft, like reasoning agents living inside a
That
Minecraft.
we're gonna do.
We
I
are going to
mean,
do it. To do
it's
it.
gonna be dangerous. They will take over the Minecraft
Yeah,
world and maybe ours.
maybe hours.
You see the episode of
Yeah, Black Mirror.
the Black Mirror one?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, that was really
That
nice.
was my end goal. Yeah,
Let's do that. It's
let's
risky,
do
but
that. Yeah. I think we can do it with current technology. Yeah, let's try to do
yeah,
it.
right. I think we should do it. I really love that. I mean, I'm definitely in. And maybe we're gonna present this next time, next year, the data hack. Who
I like it.
knows?
I like that. Yeah,
All right. I see that you're using LangGraph a lot,
yeah,
which I also like. I get a lot of questions when I was in India about LangGraph versus Crua, and it was like, but why do you prefer Crua? And I said, I never said that. If
yeah,
you wanna, I cannot like talk about everything all the times, and I need to pick something. I did experiment a lot with Crua, but I also want to make sure that people understand when to use it. It's all about orchestration, it's a different beast. But I also love LangGraph. I'm not a big fan of LangChain, honestly, but I love LangGraph. But you did a really nice talk about LangGraph, and can you elaborate a bit? I mean, what do you like about LangGraph? What you don't like? If you can also make, maybe if you can compare it with I don't know, LangChain.
So about the comparison that you were making about people asking CrewAI versus LangGraph, because I also a lot of people approach with the same question, and for me, the response, the answer is very similar to yours. It's not that I prefer LangGraph than CrewAI. For me, at least in my experience, they are applied in different contexts. Like, for example, when I want to test something that does not involve some customized logic, like really customized logic for the retrieval or for some tooling or stuff like that, I always, many times, I start with CrewAI because I think the abstractions are really cool, really easy to use, and you can make a fully functional multi-agent system in a couple of minutes, to be honest. And I think it was you who mentioned like the comparison between TensorFlow and Keras.
Yeah,
I think like I really like that comparison, that CrewAI could be understood as Keras with
yeah,
this layer of abstraction. And if you want to go one step below, you can go with LangGraph. And
yeah,
that's what happens with me. When I want to build some of these more advanced projects and I want to build some like crazy workflows inside LangGraph, something much more advanced in terms of the agentic workflows that I want to implement, I usually go with LangGraph. If I want to test or do a POC or test that something works in terms of the multi-agent system that I'm trying to build, then I typically go with CrewAI. So that's for me the
yeah,
comparison when I use both of them. And in terms of the comparison or my opinions about LangChain, I think they are really similar to yours. I didn't like LangChain. I don't like LangChain. And when people tell me that they are going to start with LangChain and they migrate into LangGraph, for me, it's not even a reasonable workflow. Ignore LangChain and
yeah,
start with LangGraph because I think it's going to be much simpler for you on the long term.
yeah.
I mean, for
LangChain
me,
is
it
too
was
complex.
crazy. Yeah, it was crazy in terms of the
It's a
abstractions. How the,
Frankenstein
that's
thing.
it.
Too many
That's it.
things going on. Yeah, it makes totally sense. I also see Crew AI as a more like high level library, but also different. They have a completely different approach because in Crew AI, that's something I try to explain, but mostly to people who are already familiar with Crew AI, maybe not during my talks. What I try to explain is that in the end, you can also see the crew, the final crew with all
Yeah.
the agents and the tasks as an agent, right?
Yeah.
That
You're right.
that can be an agent because in Crew AI, what you do is this: you're basically building the roles of the agent, and then you let them work together, but in a very controlled environment. Because in the end, they're gonna work together within the same crew, and if you want, you can see that crew as an agent. So
Yeah.
I think that the best way maybe to compare it with LangGraph, when if you look at a LangGraph agent, you compare that with the crew, but not with the underlying agents. I think that comparison is definitely, I think it's better than just saying, okay, you have the agents inside the crew. That's more like it's a detail that belongs to the actual implementation of Crew AI. But in Crew AI, the final crew is an agent. But yeah,
Yeah.
you use it for different stuff, which of course requires experience to also to understand when to use one and when to use the other. But I did get that question a lot, like, can you give me the top three? I'm like, come on, what am I? LinkedIn post. I cannot give you the top three libraries to use, platforms. I mean, it doesn't really work like that. It depends on the problem you want to solve. If you want to start with something, just look around. Maybe if you're inspired by what Miguel did, maybe try to dive into those technologies. I think my answer was always like, if you study something, it's going to be worth it. I mean, whatever you do, I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter which library you choose, just try
Absolutely.
to build something. That's it. And then questions and answers will come. Just try to build something.
Yeah. And if it's really bad, you'll notice
Yeah,
eventually. It's a really
definitely.
bad library, you will notice. So yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
All right. Then on just to conclude the podcast, because we are kind of over 40 minutes now and we can continue until tomorrow probably. How was your experience as public speaker? Because you said that there was a big stage with a
Phew.
lot of people, and kind of not the first time we were doing public speaking, but probably the first time you were in front of such a huge audience. But at the same time, I'm asking this because at the same time, you do have a lot of experience in terms of engaging with a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it was also really cool to see that, for instance, compared to me, you were coming from a different like audience.
Yeah,
When
absolutely.
I went to I don't know how many conferences, and but you also had a huge audience behind you. But at the same time, that was your first time you're talking live to a huge audience in on a big stage, also a beautiful stage, thanks to analytics video. How was it?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, one thing I realized the moment we landed in India was that it's very different when you are recording videos on your room
Yeah,
with your camera, your mic. It's your room. I mean, everything seems familiar. You can go to the kitchen whenever you want and stop the video,
yeah,
drink a glass of water, and come back. It's very different when you are. I mean, there are hundreds of people like attending to your talk and really into all the things that you are saying, and a lot of people like wanting to meet you and stuff like
yeah,
that. I mean, it's really different. I mean, in this case it's just virtual, so it's a bit easier, even if I love engaging with the audience and I always try to respond to all the messages. I try to answer all the questions. It's very different when you see like the actual human being, because in that sense, I mean, I'm not used to that. I mean, as I was saying, this is my first conference. I've never done public speaking, yes, but really small. I mean, top 30 people.
yeah,
In this case, we were talking about hundreds
yeah.
of
we
people.
had we
So
had we had like
yeah,
more than 100
huge
people.
stages,
Yeah,
like huge stages with cameras recording everything. You
right.
can see yourself display in a huge screen. So
Yeah,
for me, it
that
was
was
like, wow,
insane. I
a
mean,
shock. It
that
was a
was
shock.
insane.
Yeah, really looking forward. I mean, I love the experience, to be honest, and I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to repeating it again. I mean, I
yeah,
really enjoyed that experience. It's really different from content creation, but I love it. I love it, and it's a very interesting way to connect with your audience as well,
yeah.
because people see you
Right.
on the screen, and okay, it's really cool, but at the same time, it's a bit colder than having the I mean the possibility of discussing with them about technological stuff, even inspirational stuff, advice about the career, etc. And also having the privilege of talking about my projects with those huge screens. So that was crazy.
Yeah, I did watch your talk, and maybe not the first minutes, but I will rewatch it for sure. I joined because before your talk there was mine, so after
Yeah.
that I was like running. Hey guys, I need to go, folks. I need to go to Miguel, and that I had this prank in mind that I wanted to step on stage and take your place. Like okay, now we have Miguel, and I wanted to step on stage. I was like, let's see if people will recognize it.
No one will notice.
No, I
100%.
wanted to take that over, but I didn't make it because I was finishing mine. So then I was like basically I joined like a few minutes later. But your talk was great. I really liked
Thank
it,
you.
and it didn't really feel like the first time. And I mean, I think it was great. Of course, you need to work on the feelings that you have on stage, but to me,
Yeah.
that looked very professional. So well
Thanks.
done.
That's good to hear coming from you. Thanks a lot for the invitation, Alessandro, and it's been an amazing time here with you. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next episode.
Definitely. Thank you, Miguel. Goodbye.
Bye bye.